Hello Munchkins, am I live back again? I don't know whether I'm live or not. Okay. Jen says I'm audible and visible. So guys, am I audible and visible? Okay, please ignore this. Just give me one. Hello Munchkins. Yeah, am I live back again? I should be live now. Okay, just give me one moment. Yeah. Hi Poonam Bhera. Hi, I missed you too. Yeah, I'm live. Thank you for the confirmation. Hi, Lena. Yes, I very well remember you. You're the new student who's been joining me regularly. So I don't worry, I can remember you now. And okay, so Ravi Chaudhary saying, Hi, ma'am, I'm not Rudra, I'm Rudrakshi. Okay, got it, Rudrakshi. You have a wonderful name there. एंड मैंने सबसे अच्छा खेला मेंटी हाँ बा क्यों नहीं खूब सारा चुल्लू पर पानी पड़ा है तुमको आज I'm live and loud. Okay, thank you so very much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the menti because I enjoyed it so very much and I roasted you guys and I am so happy at that. Although, where is Nikunj? He has not been joining us, right? He loves roasting comments and stuff. So just give me one moment. हमारे बाल बह रहे हैं. Okay. This is why I don't like opening my hair at all. Okay. I'm not your beta and second is I'm busy in Anushruti ma'am live session. Okay. भैया Google Assistant जी एकदम खुलकर जवाब दे रही हैं या दे रहे हैं एंड कह रहे हैं कि हम किसी के बेटे नहीं हैं भारत माँ के बेटे हैं हम बस ओके खैर हमें जो 9th क्लास के बच्चे भी ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं बेटा पिछली वाली मेंटी में तुमको ज्वाइन करना चाहिए था हमको चलो कोई बात नहीं तुमने ज्वाइन नहीं किया अभी हम तुमको बता देते हैं कि नीरज चोपड़ा जी के लिए एक बार हम कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन कर देते हैं आपको उन्होंने गोल्ड जीता है ओलंपिक्स के लिए और इंडिया की एक बहुत ही बड़ी विक्ट्री है ये कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन टू ऑल माई फेलो इंडियंस बैक अगेन ओके इतनी याद आई ना मुझे स्कूल में स्क्रिप्ट प्रिपेयर करना था ना इसलिए तो उसमें मेरी याद क्यों आई ओके जी गूगल असिस्टेंट जी बिल्कुल रिकॉर्डिंग जरूर देखिएगा खूब फन मेंटी हुई है खूब रोस्ट किया है हमने बच्चों को पूरी मेंटी देखिएगा ठीक है अब फिर से ग्रामर पढ़ाएंगे मुझे तो मिल ही नहीं रहा आपने कहा पढ़ाया है भगवान कुछ भूला करते तो अच्छा भी करते हैं पूनम बहरा जी मैंने पढ़ाया हुआ है पूरा का पूरा यूट्यूब पर ही है एडवांस्ड ग्रामर सीरीज नाम से है बेसिक ग्रामर सीरीज नाम से है उसमें मैंने सब कुछ पढ़ाया है आई विल सी कि मैं कब पढ़ाना स्टार्ट करूंगी दोबारा से 50 से सीधा 27 पे अच्छा जरूर भविन पांड्या जी क्यों नहीं Okay, guys, so let's come back here. We are talking about the one and only Abdul Kalam ji, the 11th president of India and one of the most celebrated figures in Indian history, Shri Abdul Kalam ji. And he was the hell of a president. He was an amazing president and he was very esteemed one at that. And we're studying about him. We are reading an excerpt from his biography, from his autobiography, Wings of Fire. And we are reading about his childhood. Okay. So this is what we are reading. And we've already done a lecture on this chapter. And now we're doing the second lecture. And I hope to finish this complete chapter today because we're not left with much to cover. Okay. Alrighty. It's my humble request. आभा बेटे चुल्लू पर पानी में डूब चुके हो. You have no request to make. Okay? जी थोड़ा ऊपर आने की कोशिश करो. Try to swim. Request मत करो. Okay. Let's move on. तो जल्दी से हम बात करते हैं अनअकैडमी के कॉम्बैट के बारे में. So guys, आज 8 बजे कॉम्बैट था. कितने 9th क्लास के स्टूडेंट्स ने अटेंड किया कॉम्बैट जरा बताइए मुझे. और ये नेक्स्ट संडे को भी होगा 11 बजे तो प्लीज आप लोग ज्वाइन कर लीजिएगा जरूर 9th क्लास के सारे बच्चे और इवन 10th क्लास के भी सारे बच्चे ज्वाइन कर लीजिएगा ये कोड डालना है आपको SSIN10, ये आपका इनवाइट कोड है। सो कृपया करके जाइएगा, क्योंकि आप लोग स्कॉलरशिप जीत सकते हो, और स्कॉलरशिप जीत के घर वालों का नाम पर करना किसको पसंद नहीं है आखिरकार। अगर तुम्हें पसंद नहीं है तो बेटा पसंद करना स्टार्ट कर दो, ठीक है, बिकॉज इट्स गोइंग टू फेच रिजल्ट्स। ओके, इनके ऊपर मूवी बनानी चाहिए या भाविन पांड्या। एंड ऑल्सो गाइज आई थिंक देर इज अ मूवी on Nelson Mandela as well, so all the 10th class students can watch this movie. This movie stars Idris Elba, and he is an amazing actor. You guys must know him from Thor series. उसमें वो हाइमडाल का रोल जो है प्ले करते हैं। तो इड्रिस एल्बा जो है उन्होंने मंडेला जी का कैरेक्टर निभाया है, एंड यू शुड वॉच दैट मूवी। ओके, ऑल द 10th क्लास स्टूडेंट्स। ओके, ऑलराइटी, चलिए आगे चलते हैं। तो भैया कॉम्बैट तो आप लोगों को पता चल गया है, कॉम्बो ऑफर का आज लास्ट डेट है गाइस, सो प्लीज मेक श्योर कि आप सारे 9th क्लास के हमारे प्यारे प्यारे बच्चे जाके जल्दी से कॉम्बो ऑफर पर झपट्टा मार लो, क्योंकि भैया कॉम्बो ऑफर जैसा ऑफर बार बार नहीं आता है। अभी हम लोग दे रहे हैं तो ले लीजिए। क्लास 9 के स्टूडेंट्स, अगर आप 2 ईयर का CBSE कोर्स खरीदते हो बच्चा, तो आप लोग को 25% जो है ऑफ मिलेगा, फ्लैट ऑफ, सीधा 2 ईयर के IIT JEE और नीट UG कोर्स पर, और 2 इयर्स फ्री वैलिडिटी मिलेगी आपको स्टार्टिंग टुडे। ठीक है, सो गो फॉर दिस ऑफर, क्योंकि ऐसे ऑफर बार बार नहीं आते हैं। और देखो नीरज चोपड़ा जी ने भी जो है ओलंपिक गोल्ड जो है 1 साल की मेहनत में नहीं जीता, वो अभी सिर्फ 23 साल के हैं, और वो बचपन से इस प्रैक्टिस में लगे हुए हैं। हमारी हॉकी वाली लड़कियां, हमारे हॉकी वाले लड़के, सब लोग जो है काफी यंग है और सब प्रैक्टिस में लगे हुए हैं। सो गाइज प्लीज मेक श्योर कि आप लोग भी अभी से जो अपनी प्रैक्टिस स्टार्ट कर दीजिए, अपने फाउंडेशन कोर्सेज एवरीथिंग, बिकॉज दिस रोड इज नॉट ईजी। ऑलराइट, सो गो फॉर द 2 ईयर CBSE कोर्स, जो आपको 25% फ्लैट ऑफ सीधा दिला देगा आपके 2 ईयर IIT JEE और नीट UG कोर्स पर। ठीक है, और हमारा मेगा ऑफर भी बच्चा आज खत्म हो रहा है, तो ये मेगा ऑफर जो है आपको CBSE कोर्स जो है इसके एक्सटेंडेड वैलिडेशन दिलाता है और फ्री सब्सक्रिप्शन दिलाता है अप टू 6 मंथ्स तक, और क्रिएटिव कॉर्नर की भी फ्री सब्सक्रिप्शन दिलाता है अप टू 6 मंथ्स तक, जिसका मतलब है कि अगर आप 60 मंथ्स के लिए खरीद रहे हो तो 6 मंथ्स आपको फ्री के मिल रहे हैं, एक्स्ट्रा मिल रहे हैं, जिसमें आप फ्री की क्लासेस अटेंड कर सकते हो, फ्री का अनअकैडमी का सब कुछ यूज कर सकते हो, फ्री क्रिएटिव कॉर्नर सब्सक्रिप्शन माने कि फ्री गाना बजाना सब कुछ एकदम तुमको झक्का से एकदम सीखने को मिलेगा फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट। ठीक है, सो कितने भी महीने का खरीदते हो 18 मंथ्स का, तो भैया आपको पूरे 20 मंथ्स जो है आपको सब कुछ यूज करने को मिलेगा, एवरीथिंग विल बी फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट। सो गो फॉर दिस गाइज, जल्दी से जाइए, मेगा ऑफर के तहत CBSE सब्सक्रिप्शन खरीद लीजिए, ताकि आप लोगों को किसी भी चीज का रिग्रेट ना हो बाद में। और कोई भी आपको इनअप्रोप्रिएट अगर वीडियो मिलती है जिसमें कुछ इनअप्रोप्रिएट कंटेंट जो है वो आपको बताया जा रहा है, सो आप लोग क्या कर सकते हो, उस वीडियो को रिपोर्ट कर सकते हो। आपको क्या करना है, आराम से एक प्राइज मिलेगा जो भी फर्स्ट बच्चा जो है उस वीडियो को रिपोर्ट करेगा, गिवन ऑब्वियसली कि उस वीडियो में कुछ इनअप्रोप्रिएट हो। एंड दैट्स इट गाइस, प्लस सब्सक्रिप्शन तुम लोगों को पता है सारे की झक्कास एजुकेटर तुमको मिलते हैं, अनलिमिटेड एक्सेस मिलता है सारे कोर्सेज का, स्टडी मटेरियल, प्रैक्टिस टेस्ट, लाइव टेस्ट सीरीज, एवरीथिंग यू गाइस गेट हियर, सारा डेली प्रैक्टिस सेशन, वीकली मॉक टेस्ट सीरीज, लाइव क्विजेस, डेली MCQ सब मिलता है। तुम्हारा खुद का अपना बैच बना होता है टीचर्स के साथ, तुम्हारी फेवरेट टीचर्स के साथ, तो प्लीज गो फॉर दिस। ठीक है, SSIN10 मेरा कोड है, ये लगाइए, जल्दी से जाकर खरीद लीजिए अपना CBSE का सब्सक्रिप्शन। और अभी तो ऑफर भी चल रहा है, आज खरीद लो बाबा रे बाबा, वरना बहुत पछताओगे तुम ही लोग। ठीक है, आइकॉनिक सब्सक्रिप्शन खरीद लो, लेजेंडरी सब्सक्रिप्शन है, 1000 बार बोल रही हूँ, 1000 बार और बोलूंगी। तुमको अपना खुद का एक पर्सनल मेंटोर मिलेगा, पर्सनल कोच मिलेगा, जो कि अपने आप में काफी लेजेंडरी कोच है, काफी स्टैब्लिश्ड अकम्पलिश्ड कोच होगा। तुम्हारे पेरेंट्स से भी जो है हम लोग बात करेंगे, उनको बेटर गाइड करेंगे, उनके द्वारा तुम्हें बेटर गाइड करेंगे, स्टडी प्लान करके देंगे, वीकली रिपोर्ट कार्ड देंगे, लाइव डाउट सॉल्विंग कराएंगे, ऑल बेनिफिट्स ऑफ अनअकैडमी, जितना कुछ है तुमको सब मिलेगा, एवरीथिंग इन द वर्ल्ड विल बी योर्स। तो प्लीज गो फॉर दिस SSIN10, बस कोड डालिए, 10% ऑफ आपको स्ट्रेट अप ऑफ मिलेगा। ठीक है, लॉन्गर ड्यूरेशन के लिए जाइए ताकि आपको बार बार ना खरीदना पड़े, एक बार में पेमेंट करके काफी सस्ता पेमेंट होगा। और भैया अगर आप लोग एक बार में पेमेंट करके नहीं खरीद सकते हो तो इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में भी खरीद सकते हो। आप 12 मंथ से ऊपर का प्लान खरीदिए, आराम से पार्ट्स में पे करिए विद 0 कॉस्ट EMI, एंड कोड डालिए SSIN10। और आपको कोई भी डाउट होता है ना आपके मैथ्स, फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री सब्जेक्ट में, अनअकैडमी की ऐप पर जाओ, वहां पर आस्क इट ऑल फीचर पे क्लिक करो, पिक्चर लो अपने डाउट की एंड पिक्चर लेने के बाद उस पिक्चर को अपलोड करो, सब्जेक्ट चूज करो एंड वीडियो सॉल्यूशन तुम्हारे पास अपन लोग भेज देंगे। बस ध्यान रखना तुम जो हमको फोटो भेज रहे हो उसमें बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन नहीं होने चाहिए, तुम्हारा एक क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए, कंप्लीट क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए, क्रॉप इमेज करके भेजना अच्छे से, एकदम क्लियर इमेज, और हैंड रिटन क्वेश्चन नहीं भेजना अपने को, ठीक है? ओके, ऑलराइट, लेट्स सी नाउ कमेंट्स में क्या चल रहा है। So just give me 1 minute, people. Yeah. Yeah, now I always say legendary because it is legendary. It is legit legendary. राधे राधे निकुंज, आपको हम लोग याद कर रहे थे, अभी किधर रहते हो रे तुम लोग आजकल? हमारे एग्जाम कब होंगे जानते हो तो प्लीज बता दीजिए। पूनम बेहरा जी, अराउंड नवंबर में ही आपके एग्जाम होंगे। ओके जी, यहाँ पर वो गूगल असिस्टेंट है, बिल्कुल है। रुको बोलती हूँ ना मैम, इसलिए क्या, बट क्या पता नहीं यहाँ पर क्या बोल रहे हो। ओके, ऑलराइट, फाइन। So guys, let's begin learning about one of the most esteemed presidents of India, Shri Abdul Kalam ji. Okay, he was an Indian aerospace scientist who served as the 11th president from 2002 to 2007. He was born and raised in Rameshwaram, Tamil Nadu, and studied physics and aerospace engineering. In his autobiography, Wings of Fire, he speaks of his childhood. And we have already seen yesterday that the atmosphere in Rameshwaram was a harmonious atmosphere and the ambience was filled with love, and everywhere people were just thinking each one among them as their own equal. So nobody really discriminated against anyone on the basis of religion specifically. Okay, so it was a lovely environment with lovely surroundings, and everyone was just a great man. And Abdul Kalam ji's parents were very beautiful and very handsome and tall parents. And he also talks about his father. He says that his father lived an austere lifestyle, which means that he lived a simple and plain lifestyle, a strict lifestyle. He did not want any luxuries, any inessential comforts of life, and he also made his children in the same way. Okay, all of their necessities were met, but the luxuries were not met. And then the Second World War broke out in 1939, and India was, at least Rameshwaram was unaffected because of that. Unaffected by it because Rameshwaram was situated in a secluded area. It was isolated from the rest of the world, so to say, somehow. And that's why the World War did not affect Rameshwaram. However, when India became a part of the Allied forces against Germany and Japan, that's when the emergency state was sort of on in India. You could say that the emergency state was provisioned in India, or it was enforced. The word I'm looking for is enforced. I'm so sorry it took me such a long time. Yeah, so emergency state was enforced in India, and that's when all the trains stopped halting at the Rameshwaram station, and that's when Rameshwaram really suffered because they were not able to get their newspapers like they used to. So how did they used to get their newspapers? The newspapers were just thrown in bundles from the train on the platform, and one of the brothers of Abdul Kalam ji used to sort of sell those newspapers in the area, and he enlisted the help of Abdul Kalam ji to pick up those newspapers and sort of organize them and then help him to sell these. Okay, so this is how he earned his first wage, and Abdul Kalam ji really remembers this with a pinch of pride because he thinks that this was the first way he earned his wage, and he felt independent for the first time in his life. And then he talks about how everything was sort of, again, he talks about everything just being natural in that place, everything being beautiful and lovely, and people were harmonious, and nobody really discriminated against anyone. And then he goes on to talk about his friends and how his friends were these people, these three other children from really orthodox Hindu families, and how nobody really discriminated against him because of his religion. So everyone was on an equal footing there. And then he talks about how his family would contribute to the that big festival, that Sita Ram Kalyanam ceremony. This is the ceremony, and he talks about how his family would contribute to this festival. His family would be providing boats for this festival, and the boats would have a special platform on which they would put the idols of Ram and Sita and would take them to the marriage site, and they would put the idols in the middle of the pond, and that was called the Ram Teerth. Okay, so even a Muslim family was contributing to the Indian sort of the Hindu festival, not the Indian, the Hindu festival. They were contributing their part into this, sorry, to this Muslim festival. I'm so sorry. And he talks about how everyone in the community contributed to that festival and to the smooth functioning of it, right? So this was not a community that thought of people who were from a different religion as the antagonists. They were all living in harmony, and this was way before the partition, because we're talking about the era of the Second World War right now, 1939. Okay, so we're talking about that age. And this is where we stopped reading yesterday. We stopped reading at the fact that sorry, we stopped reading with the fact that what was this? Yeah. So the grandmother, yeah. So the grandmother would tell the children in our family. So the Muslim children were being told the stories of the great Lord Ram from the Hindu religion, and the great stories of the from the life of the Prophet Muhammad. And so this is something that shows you that everyone respected each other's cultures and each other's religions. Okay, so this is what we've learned till date. Okay, Abha, bye bye. Hello, Ekta Srivastava, I'm doing great. Yeah, okay. Okay, until tomorrow. Bye bye, Abha. Ma'am, his full name was damn long. Yes, Alina, his full name was very long. All right, fine. So let's move on. Uh, So this is the photo that shows you that Sita Ram Kalyanam ceremony. I think this was the ceremony that celebrated the marriage of Sita and Ram, and all the Hindu people were celebrating the ceremony. You can see here, this is Abdul Kalam ji, right? And these are all the Hindu people. They're all engaging in the festivities, and they're all celebrating the festival with full fervor, and you can see everyone contributing their part to the ceremony, right? So this is how the religions were celebrated, and you can see that Rameshwaram was a place that was named after Lord Ram, but there was a mosque street which emphatically pronounced the fact, or declared the fact, that people were not going to discriminate each other on the basis of their religions, and everyone respected each other. Everyone solely disregarded the fact that they have to make their own religion superior, right? So this was about equality. This was about respecting each other's wishes and their religion and their culture, and it all stemmed from this, or you could say the beauty, the harmony stemmed from this particular thought structure. Okay. All right, fine. So let's move on now. So one day when I was in the 5th standard at the Rameshwaram Elementary School, a new teacher came to our class. So now we're going to talk about this new teacher who entered their school, the Rameshwaram Elementary School, and Abdul Kalam ji was in the 5th standard at this time. I used to wear a cap which marked me as a Muslim, and I always sat in the front row next to Ramananda Shastri, who wore the sacred thread. The new teacher could not stomach a Hindu priest's son sitting with a Muslim boy. So we know that Ramananda Shastri was the son of the head priest of the major temple in Rameshwaram, and everybody knew him. And there were these four friends, right? The four friends in the group: Ramananda Shastri and Shiv Prakashan and one another, and Abdul Kalamji, and they all went on to sort of contribute their part to the society in one ways or another, but none of them really discriminated against each other on the basis of each other's relations. And that is what is being shown here. You can see how Abdul Kalamji, being a Muslim, wore a white colored cap, and Muslims do generally wear this white colored cap, which marks them as a Muslim, right? Which is sort of the part of their Muslim identity. And the priests and the priest's son wear this sacred thread. I don't know what this sacred thread is called, but they wear this dhaga around their body, and this marks them as a Brahmin, as a high level Brahmin, and as a priest also. And even Gandhiji talks about wearing this sacred thread and how he came to not wear the sacred thread anymore. So he talks about this whole paradigm shift as well. And Ramananda Shastri, the son of the high priest of the temple in Rameshwaram, also wore this sacred thread. So this marked him as an Orthodox Hindu, and Abdul Kalamji wearing that white colored cap, that marked him as an Orthodox Muslim. And they both sat together in the front row of the class. All right. And so this new teacher enters the classroom, and she or he, whoever that teacher is, whatever the gender of the teacher is, he or she notices these two children from different religions sitting together completely in harmony, and they are really cool friends. So the teacher cannot stomach this fact, which means that the teacher cannot bear this fact that a Muslim child is sitting with a Hindu child and they're both enjoying the company of each other. Okay, so this teacher had some severe problems in his or her head. The mentality, the thought structure, the you could say the dynamic of religion was sort of rigid in the mind of this teacher. And so this teacher was taken aback because of this. Okay. All right, let's move on then. Guys, does anyone have a doubt? Okay. Guys, I'll wait for 1 minute. Ma'am, those people who lived there had an awesome thing called religious tolerance. Alina, yeah, you could say religious tolerance. I would not really say religious tolerance, because I feel to even have religious tolerance is a very negative thing to propagate. I feel that to say that you have religious tolerance comes from the fact that you don't think that other religions need exist, and you feel that somehow your religion is the supremo. And I think to say religious tolerance in itself carries a negative connotation. So you can just say that they all lived in harmony with each other and they never disrespected any other religion that surrounded them. Okay, yeah, I think 1 minute is done enough and I don't see any doubts. So I'll just move on. Alrighty, fine. Okay, Karishma Mahakal, hello. In accordance with our social ranking, as the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go back and sit on the back bench. So you can see the sheer discrimination, the sheer oppression also that was meted out to Muslims, right? The whole community was completely okay with it, but somehow the teacher was not. And as a teacher, you can see how he was propagating these discriminatory ideas in such a beautiful, in such a harmonious environment. right? He was sort of polluting the environment there. He was polluting the ambience there because everybody would feel so dejected and everybody would feel so awkward. Why a Muslim student who always used to sit in the front row was asked to sit in the back of the class. Sorry, at the back of the class, right? So, yeah, give me one sec. Yeah. So I was saying that this makes even the students feel awkward because this is weird. The students don't know what's happening and they might not even understand why it's happening because they are just in fifth grade. They have very impressionable minds, and this is how a teacher's duty is being polluted here. A teacher's duty is not being followed because the teacher is the one who is perpetrating this crime of discrimination. While he should be the one who should be indiscriminate, he should be the one who should be impartial, but he is the complete opposite. So you can see how the teacher is in itself, sorry, the post of the teacher in itself is the authority figure, and how this authority figure is misusing and misappropriating the power they have been assigned. Then I felt very sad, and so did Ramananda Shastri. So Ramananda Shastri and Abdul Kalam ji were all, we know all, we all know that they were close friends, and they were very close, and they both felt sad because if you are supposed to get separated from your best friend, then you would feel sad, right? If you're not supposed to sit together in the class, you would feel alone without them. And that's what was happening here. And they also somehow understood the undertones here. He looked utterly downcast as I shifted to my seat in the last row. So Ramananda Shastri was not very happy at this. He looked utterly downcast. Downcast means sad, disappointed, depressed, dejected. Okay, so he looked very sad while he witnessed this discrimination taking place in the classroom. The image of him weeping when I shifted to the last row left a lasting impression on me. So you can see how Ramananda Shastri was not just sad. That guy, that child was weeping, which shows us how clearly close these two children were and how it definitely put a negative impression on the very impressionable mind of Ramananda Shastri, and how he was so dejected that he was getting separated from his best friend, so to say, that he started weeping, he started crying, because children do not understand the politics behind it, although they somehow must have understood the undertones behind it as well. Yes, yes, yes. About teachers' behavior. Yes, exactly, sportsman. Okay, ma'am, what's your opinion on this? I talked about my opinion. I explained that. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, okay, okay. Let me see. Acha, okay, got it, Alina. But you're in seventh class. I don't really understand what you're doing in a ninth class session. Ma'am, is this happened? This, yes, yes, yes. This all is real, and we're reading an excerpt from the autobiography of Abdul Kalam ji. Wings of Fire is the name of his autobiography, and we are reading an excerpt about his childhood. So all of this is real. This really happened, which does go on to show that before the partition, the minds of Indians were not polluted with the idea of segregation, of this schism between Hindu and Muslim, with this idea of schism between Hindu and Muslims. Piyush Chaudhary, I'm not ignoring you. I'm only looking for doubts here. And if you guys do not have doubts, then we can just move on. Okay, okay, Deadshot, got it. All right, so I don't see any doubts. So I will just simply move on. Okay. All right, fine. Bye bye. Caste system should be abolished. Yes, Bhavin Pandya, caste system has been abolished. Definitely. It does not exist anymore. And this is not really about the caste system. Abdul Kalam ji is talking about the religious discrimination, which is much broader in its you could say much broader in its, okay, I'm getting completely blank here. I am so sorry. I was talking about, which is, oh yeah, okay, I remember what I'm talking about now, which is much broader in its repercussions, right? You can see this widely perpetrated discrimination everywhere. Okay, all right, let's move on then. No doubts. After school, we went home and told our respective parents about the incident. So the children obviously lived in a lovely home and they were close to their parents. So they told their parents about this unforeseen and unbecoming incident. Lakshmana Shastri summoned the teacher. So who was Lakshmana Shastri? Lakshmana Shastri was the high priest, right? He was the father of Raman the Shastri. So Lakshmana Shastri summoned. Summoned means bulana. Okay, so I will just write down the meaning of summoned here. जब आप summon करते हो तो आप बुलाते हो. Summon means bulana. So he summoned the teacher and in our presence told the teacher that he should not spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. So here he has given us the correct word for it, that is communal intolerance. When you say communal intolerance, it talks about how you're intolerating this one part of your community which you should not be doing on the basis of their religion, right? So when you say, this was definitely about religious intolerance, but yeah, this was better put in the terms of communal intolerance. So you can see here how Lakshmana Shastri, being the high priest of the temple, did not have the poison of social inequality or communal intolerance in his mind. He was an egalitarian. He revered the idea of, you could say, the utopia where everyone was equal and everyone was free to follow the religion that they wanted to. Everyone had the carte blanche for it, so to say. And you could really see how Lakshmana Shastri is the guy you would go to if you had any troubles with the sort of equalitarian system, the system that professed itself to be equalitarian, but in reality was not so much. So, how Lakshmana Shastri, being the high priest of a temple, was really an open-minded guy, was a liberal guy, and did not believe in perpetrating the crime of discrimination against on the basis of religion. Okay. Okay. So, okay, no doubts, fine. I'll just move on. So, communal intolerance means community के एक part के लिए टॉलरेंस ना होना, माने कि सहना नहीं उसको. और सोशल इनइक्वालिटी तो आप लोग समझ ही सकते हो कि सोसाइटी में इनइक्वालिटी. ठीक है, किसी को भी डाउट हो तो प्लीज पूछ लीजिएगा, और डाउट नहीं है तो मैं आगे चल लूंगी. एनी डाउट्स एनीवन? I don't think कि कोई doubt है, so I will just move on, I think. All right, fine. Let's move on then. Okay, Deadshot Gamer. Fine. He bluntly asked the teacher to either apologize or quit the school and the island. Oh my God. So Lakshmana Shastri, he was not just a person who would fight for us, for the oppressed or fight with the oppressed, but he was a very outspoken and a very blatantly upfront person. You could say that he really believed in the cause and he was going to go lengths and mile in order to achieve whatever his cause demanded. So he was able to threaten the teacher, and he threatened him that either you apologize to these children and you treat them as equals, or you just leave the school. And because he was the high priest, he obviously had a lot of power in the community. Okay, so maybe he could make him do that. Not only did the teacher regret his behavior, but the strong sense of conviction of Lakshmana Shastri conveyed ultimately reformed this young teacher. So Lakshmana Shastri was not someone you would meddle with, and Lakshmana Shastri was a really powerful figure. That's what I am getting from this whole discourse here. So you can understand how Lakshmana Shastri was a guy who had a very strong conviction and very strong ideas about equality, and how he did not want anyone to discriminate on the basis of religion on his land in his home town of Rameshwaram. Okay, he had some sort of power there, and maybe he had the ears of people as well. Maybe people listened to him, and he said that, yeah, so when he threatened the teacher obviously cowed. Okay, so the teacher apologized to the children, but it was not just a fake apology. Somehow the sense of conviction, somehow the sense of equality that reverberated in the head of Ramananda Shastri here, that sense of conviction also was now echoed by this guy, this young teacher. Okay, so this young teacher also now wholeheartedly believed in the idea of social equality, and definitely did not believe anymore in communal intolerance, so to say. On the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of the segregation of different social groups. So he says that on the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of segregation of different social groups. So he says that it was not an idea that was untouched upon by the society of Rameshwaram. It was not an idea that people did not take care of. It was an idea that was there in the society, that existed in the society, that was extant in the society. So the people in Rameshwaram did have the idea of the segregation of different social groups. Right now, when he says social groups, it could be class based difference, or it could be religious based difference. So this does not really give us an open idea of what difference we're talking about particularly here, but this can be interpreted in both ways. The society was rigid, so the society was tough about the differences between the different social groups, but it did not go on to say that they treated each other with inequality, right? So that is where the respect for the other religion lies, and the harmonious society, the key to a harmonious society lies. However, my science teacher Siva Subramanya Iyer, through an Orthodox Brahmin, though an Orthodox Brahmin with a very conservative wife, was something of a rebel. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from varying backgrounds could mingle easily. And now we are going to read an anecdote actually. And this anecdote talks about how, what are you guys saying in the comments? Okay, yeah. ठीक है. Ma'am, where is Rameshwaram? Alina, you were going, right? Rameshwaram in the southern part of India. It is most probably in Tamil Nadu. Um, yeah, so now let's come back here. So now we're going to read a very interesting excerpt from the life of Abdul Kalam ji. He talks about this teacher called Siva Subramanya Iyer, who is definitely a Brahmin guy, and he had an orthodox Brahmin wife who was very conservative and had a conservative mindset. But Subramanya Iyer was some sort of a rebel. He was, you could say, a political and a religious rebel. He was also a social rebel, and he wanted equality to pervade each and every facet of life. He wanted equality to percolate down in trinklets even to the lowest rungs of the society. He wanted everyone to understand that it's all about humanity and not the religion that people were following. So this is a very interesting and a very thought-provoking episode that we have here. All right, let's start reading. So he talks about his particular science teacher, Siva Subramanya Iyer. Maybe somehow that he was a science teacher also has something to contribute to his particular character here, because scientific people do not really believe in all these man-made customs and man-made restrictions. and they generally believe in nature and the science of behind everything. But the rules and regulations of society do not necessarily have a scientific rationale behind them. So yeah, let's move on. And his wife was a very orthodox Brahmin with a conservative wife, and you could say that Shiva Subramanya Iyer was some sort of a heterodox. He was against orthodox people, so that's what you call a heterodox. Okay, or you could say he was an iconoclast in some ways. So Shiva Subramanya Iyer was a heterodox. All right, let's move on. Where were we? Yeah. So he did his best to break social barriers so that people from varying backgrounds could mingle easily. So as he was a heterodox, as he was a person who believed in scientific rationale, he tried his best to bring humans close together without without any reference to the social barriers that lied between them. So here you could see how our teacher, our scientific teacher, was trying his level best to make people understand that all the illusions of religion, all the illusions of the barriers, the religious barriers, or even the social barriers that they thought separated them from each other did not really exist, and how in totality, in essence, so to say, they were all just humans waiting to be loved, waiting to be accepted in the society. He used to spend hours with me and would say, Kalam, I want you to develop so that you are on par with the highly educated people of the big cities. So this scientific guy really took a liking to our Abdul Kalam ji, and he was interested in Kalam ji, and he said to the child Kalam that I really want you to be at par with the intelligent men in big cities. So he had high aspirations for Kalam, and maybe in some ways or other, he really did inspire Kalam to be the person that he really became later on, right? Because he sort of set an idol for him, an ideal to follow, an ideal teacher, an ideal scientific person with scientific logic, and a person who was driven not by hatred but by love and by the understanding of human nature, so to say. So he wanted Kalam to be a very intelligent and highly educated person who was at par with. So when you say at par, that means equal. All right. Okay, fine. Any doubt, anyone? Wow, Alina, Rameshwaram is in India on earth. Yes, it is. It definitely is. Bye, Ranu. Good night. All right, let's move on. One day he invited me to his home for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in her ritually pure kitchen. So I think this really refers to all of our mothers, because somehow if you're a Jain, then you're not going to use piyaz and other things. And like there are mothers who are very keen on making their kitchen pure and very sanctuary type of an area. They want their kitchen to be religiously pure, not just in not just hygienic, but pure in the sense of religion. So this wife, Subramanyam Iyer's wife, was also this kind of wife who wanted her home, her kitchen to be pure in the sense of religion, to be pure in the sense of rituals, and she could not stomach the fact of a Muslim guy, of a Muslim boy, having entered her home and entering her kitchen to eat food from her utensils or eating food in her kitchen. So she was now a person who was conservative and who would not accept any other religion, especially the Islamic religion, in her home. She refused to serve me in the kitchen. So Abdul Kalamji says that that woman absolutely refused to serve me in her kitchen. She did not want me to enter the kitchen. Subramanya Iyer was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead served me with his own hands and sat down beside me to eat his meal. But Siva Subramaniam Iyer was not someone who would back down without a fight. He was actually a person who was going to change the mind of his wife, who was going to change the conservative attitude of his wife, so to say. He was not perturbed. Perturbed means worried. Okay. So he was not worried, and he obviously did not get angry at his wife or angry with his wife. He did not, uh, did not lash out any expletives at his wife or did not become the patriarchal male ego kind of a person. He was very calm. He sort of maintained his equanimity, and he just took on the role of his wife there, and he served Abdul Kalamji, and sat down beside him to eat the meal. So Shiva Subramaniam Iyer was obviously a rebel, as we can see here, and he is trying to change the mind of his wife about all this. His wife watched us from behind the kitchen door. I wondered whether she had observed any difference in the way I ate rice, drank water, or cleaned the floor after the meal. When I was leaving his house, Shiva Subramaniam Iyer invited me to join him for dinner again the next weekend. So now you can see how beautifully this has been put across. You can see how Abdul Kalamji is saying that we were eating in the same way. There was nothing different. We were both humans, and we were eating the rice the same way. We were drinking the water the same way. We were cleaning the floor after we have eaten in the same way. So there was no difference whatsoever between Shiva Subramaniam Iyer's way of eating and my way of eating. And this is how he puts the idea of humanity across, that there is this one thing that binds all of us together, and that is humanity, that is mankind in totality. It's not the religions that separate us, it's our barriers that have been created in our head, the demarcations that we are no longer ready to or equipped intellectually equipped to cross. These are the barriers that segregate us as humans, and not our ways of eating or drinking, or not something that is tangible. The things that separate us are intangible, and if they're intangible, they do not really exist. They are made up, right? So this is what he propounds here. And he says how the wife watched both of them eating together, and the wife was just, looking at them. I think she was looking at them with a gaping mouth. She was dumbstruck at this whole idea of seeing a Muslim sitting in her kitchen, eating from her utensils, and just sort of, I don't know how to put this, but just sort of, um, you could say, it was a sacrilege for her, right? Sacrilege means something that is against, or against the religion, or something that profanes the religion. It was sort of a profanity for her. It was a sacrilege for her. It was something that was just not helping in the purity of her religion. Sorry, purity of her kitchen. I'm sorry, I just cannot get that word. If you guys know the word, then let me know. Yeah, Lina, I know the gif behind this. So funny. Yeah. What is ritually pure kitchen? Ritually pure kitchen is basically, Alina, something that kitchen, just pure by the, you could say, according to the rituals of the religion. I don't know how it is, because I don't think it happens in my house, but like, it's not just hygienic kitchen, it's more about ritually pure kitchen, in the sense that your religion has these basic precepts that they want you to follow, and these precepts command these rituals that you need to undertake maybe in your religion, and through these rituals you'll be able to clean your kitchen, and maybe, just have the blessed hand of God upon the food that you make via those rituals. So maybe that is what they mean by ritually pure kitchen. Bye, Narayan. Good night. Yeah, I think the word is defiling. I just remembered the word. The word is defiling. So when you defile something, that's more or less making it unpurified, which is not exactly a word, but if you defile something, you make it not pure. Okay, so she thought that the Muslim was defiling her kitchen in one way or the other, and Shiva Subramaniam Iyer really did not take care about of this. He did not care for anything that his wife thought, and he even went on to invite Abdul Kalam ji next week. Okay, so he invited him again. Observing my hesitation, he told me not to get upset, saying, once you decide to change the system, such problems have to be confronted. So, Siva Subramaniam Iyer was someone who was trying to change the mindset. He was trying to change the systemic mindset, so to say, the mindset that had been created in the minds of hundreds and thousands of Hindus that Muslims defile your home, Muslims are not good people somehow. Okay, so Siva Subramaniam Iyer was trying his level best against this, and he said that once you start changing the system, you will have to confront these problems. You will have to let's say go up against and fight against all of these conservative rituals or all of these outdated rituals and mindsets, so to say. So he did not really care about his wife thinking that the kitchen is now impure. So he was not really interested in answering that question of hers. When I visited his house the next week, Shiva Subramania Iyer's wife took me inside her kitchen and served me food with her own hands. Then the Second World War was over and India's freedom was imminent. So you can see how the whole episode affected the lady and how she understood what her husband was trying to teach her, what her husband was trying to convey to her via this whole episode and via this whole dinner. She seemed to understand that, and the next time she herself brought Abdul Kalam ji to the kitchen and served him and sat him down and offered him food and everything, and that's how maybe she understood that it's really not different, and then that it's just really humans out there, right? Not religions. You should not identify people with their religion. You should identify them with their names and as humans. So then this is really beautiful the way he has said. Then the Second World War was over and India's freedom was imminent. So he says here how beautifully he puts the fact that this whole war that was raging on in the household of Shiva Subramaniam Iyer, the war between him and his wife, how this war got concluded. And along with this, the external war out there in the world, the World War II also culminated. And India's freedom was also imminent. Imminent means it is very near, like it is about to happen, so to say. Imminent means it is near or around the corner, it is about to happen. So they all sort of sat together and ate and reveled in their happiness, and in similar ways the Second World War was over and India was also getting ready for its independence. So India's freedom was also around the corner, it was imminent. Indians will build their own India, declared Gandhiji. The whole country was filled with an unprecedented optimism. So Gandhiji, obviously we all know that Gandhiji was, let's say, at the forefront of the independence struggle, and Gandhiji declared that Indians will build their own India. No other country is supposed to have any part in the building of India anymore. Indians will build their own India. And the whole country was filled with an unprecedented optimism. Unprecedented means something that has not been done before. Something that is unprecedented, something that has not been done before. So it was an unprecedented optimism that Indians had. Obviously, Indians did not know that things were going to get this bad, but they were obviously very optimistic because they had fought this long struggle. They had fought hard and they had finally won. And they were all filled with optimism, this optimism they did not have before, and they were going to build their own India that they had never done before. So they were all obviously very excited, very exhilarated. I asked my father for permission to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters in Ramanathapuram. And with this independence, you can see Abdul Kalam ji asking for permission to leave his home in order to pursue higher studies. And this is such a beautiful act, and it has been penned with such I mean, the order of the things that are being told here is nothing short of poetry, I think, because you can see how everything just reverberates and everything resonates with everything else. You can see India being independent. You can see in Gandhiji saying Indians will build their own India, and then you can see Indians being filled with an unprecedented optimism. And you can see both of these things. You can see both the reflection of both of these things in the act of Abdul Kalamji asking for permission to pursue his higher studies in this another part of the particular area, and how this is a step forward and this is a step away from home, how he's going to build his own life, and how he has this unprecedented optimism because he knows that he's going to nail his studies at this district headquarters. So he told me, thinking as if aloud, Abu, I know you have to go away to grow. And his father, whom we have been introduced as a wise man. So his father was a wise man, and the father says that, Abul, I know you have to go away to grow. So the father understands that the children need to be on their own to actually grow, which is a very wise aphorism, so to say, a very wise idea. Okay, then. Does the seagull not fly across the sun alone and without a nest? He quoted Khalil Gibran to my hesitant mother. So now, give me 1 second. Yeah, I've seen the time. I'll just complete this. We only have 2 slides. Actually, we have just this one slide left, and I will explain the slide. So you can see his father quoting Khalil Gibran, who was a famous poet, more or less. I mean, he was quoting this famous personality, Khalil Gibran, and he says that, does the seagull not fly across the sun alone and without a nest? Because the seagull has to be on his own in order to understand the world, in order to not be naive anymore, in order to be intelligent, in order to be self-dependent and sort of independent. So he says that the seagull is able to take his own responsibility for his own self, and that's what makes him a distinguished seagull. And we should let our child do that as well. So he's trying to make his wife understand, because the wife is not accepting the fact that the child is about to go away, because the mother is obviously not emotionally ready to be ripped away from her child. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. This is just so beautiful. He says to his mother, he says to his wife and to the mother of Abdul Kalamji, that your children are just not your children. They have a life, and they need to find this life, they need to find this purpose, they need to understand the meaning of life for themselves or on by themselves, and they are the life's longing for itself. So they are life itself, which is longing for an actual life. If the children just stay under the shelter of our protection, they will never be able to understand life for what it is. And this is what he goes on to say here. They come through you, but not from you. He says that the children definitely come from you. Okay, so they definitely come through you in this world. I'm sorry. They definitely come through you from this world, but they're not from you. The children are not yours. The children are not from you. They just come through you. You are just the channel. just the medium through which they enter this world, but they are not actually your property. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. For them, for they have their own thoughts. So he says that you can give your children your love, but you should never force your thoughts on them. You should never force your mindset or your mentality on your children, because your children have their own mind and they have their own mindsets and they have to develop themselves on their own. So he goes on to say how we should let our children fly in the world and how we should give them the chance to be themselves, and how we should never force our children to accept our mindsets and to accept our culture and to accept our ways of thinking, because they need to discover this world for their own selves. And this is such a beautiful idea. I think a lot of brown parents, a lot of Indian parents completely go against this. And you can see Abdul Kalamji's father being a very insightful, a very perspicacious man. You can see that his wisdom really knows no bounds. He understands what life is, and even though he is not formally educated, even though he is not someone who who has any formal channel through which he could have gained this wisdom, has this wisdom maybe through living life itself, and maybe he has lived a full and well life, and now he wishes for his sons and his daughters to live that life, and he completely accepts the fact that his child needs to grow on his or her own, and he makes the wife understand this as well. Okay. It's okay, Abha. I love teaching. I can just go on speaking to myself. Yeah, Alina, these lines are absolutely beautiful. I think every Indian parent out there should remember these lines, that the children come through you. You're just the channel, you're just the medium that brings children to this world, but the children are not from you. The children are not your property. They are not from you in the sense of, they're you cannot control them in that sense. And he goes on to say how the children have their own minds and you should never force your thinking on the children. You should always give the children a chance to understand life and to understand world on their own. And he says how the children are like seagulls who need to fly on their own and who need to fly across the sun on their own and understand the world on their own. So these are some really beautiful lines, some really great lines said by Abdul Kalamji's parent. And I think he was definitely a very wise man, a very perspicacious man, a sagacious man. In fact, he lived an austere life. I think he really understood life for what it was, and he went on to even talk like a sage. So he was definitely very sagacious. Not very sagacious, just sagacious. Yes, Abha, I can see that you're back. Okay. Alrighty. I think I'm always going to have this background behind me in our chit chat session next time onwards, because this is just beautiful. This feels beautiful. This feels liberating. And Abdul Kalamji's father had a very liberal mindset, I think. Okay. All right. So I don't think anyone has any doubts, and I will just, ouch. Yeah, I will leave the session now. And Amma, that emoji was just there to, just say like, and kind of like that. Yeah. Okay, guys, I will leave now. Okay, let me just see if there is any word. Yeah, so please remember this line, that they are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. So they are the sons and daughters of life, so to say, and the life wants them to find life. I think this is just some really beautiful line, just super, super, super beautiful and super, super insightful. Yeah, Abha, definitely. Shabba khair, Alina. Okay, good night, Abha. Good night, Alina, and good night, everyone else. I will leave now. And if there is any confusion about anything or you want me to explain something in Hindi, I would be happy to do that. This is sort of the last time I'm asking. And if there isn't any doubt, then I will just leave. No, no, Abha, I did not get bored at all. I love teaching this episode, I think, in the life of Abdul Kalam ji. It's just this thing. I keep getting blank all the time because by this time I'm exhausted and I just keep going blank. But it's okay. Ha ha, Abha, that's not happening at all. Not happening. So yeah, but like we really understood a lot of things about the time of India before partition or about the India before partition. We understood the time also, obviously, before partition and how people lived a harmonious life and how once the thought was inculcated in their minds that they there was a schism between Hindus and Muslims and there had to be negative consequences of that, then the repercussions were supremely ghastly and things went over the board. Definitely. Okay. All right. Fine. So I'm leaving. Good night, everyone, and take care. And I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Bye bye. Tata. Take care. Please like the session, share the session, and subscribe to the channel.